Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Please help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We need your help in order to help a world that is struggling due to COVID and other challenges. All you got to do is get some people to subscribe. That would be super helpful. We try to be here as often as we can. Over 360 audios on a variety of topics available for your listening consumption. Please like, subscribe, comment below, and all that good stuff. Today we're going to talk about some bizarre things about love. And when we're talking about love in this particular context, we're talking about romantic love, or even kind of that best friend, that inner circle, kind of BFF sort of thing. And so we're going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things in that area. Love can be an emotional painkiller for people, and I talk about that with clients all the time. That a lot of times what we think is love is actually using the benefit of another person or our relationship with them as a painkiller. And so we simulate loving emotions and loving feelings for another person when in reality what we're actually doing is kind of masking something we don't like about ourselves. And if that's happening symbiotically, that is, both people are doing it, the foundation of the relationship itself can be often quite challenged and doesn't have a lot of longevity. That's why, especially with teenagers and young people, you'll see people fall in, quote, love very quickly, and then immediately kind of somebody does something, somebody says something, jealousy and issues of time spent and investment emotionally and all of these things. It's not necessarily that one person is being cruel or abusive. It's actually that the standards that they went into the relationship with are not able to be met because they came in with faulty expectations. And this happens a lot more than people realize. I would even say this happens 60 to 70% of all relationships in one form or another. And I've got to grab my phone, so we'll do that and be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Stay right there. So another factor at the end of the day is that people do use love in a often, sometimes unhealthy way. And the next thing is that, unlike or like unto that, it creates the same chemical reaction for some people, not all people, but some people, that would be in line with a chemical addiction. The release of norepinephrine, adrenaline, oxytocin, and other hormones, dopamine, that are feel-good endorphins, can in fact mirror image somebody who is getting high or drunk or into an altered state. And so if a person who is connecting in a new relationship, especially an individual who has been emotionally starving themselves, is in fact struggling with, feelings of, let's say, bereavement or grieving a former relationship, or they've been what I call cameling, going long periods of time without emotional support, and they meet somebody new and they think, or they attach as though this is the solution to their issues, solution to their problem, then they will actually latch onto this new person or the new situation like a physical high. And the body will crave it. That's where people become like obsessive texters or wanting to know where a person is all the time. That's honestly for people who have addictions to relationships, like relationship hopping and or the beginning of stalking, not the stalking behavior, but the neural pathway that leads a person to become obsessive can begin with an addiction to that high. The next thing is their bodies and minds will sync. And so syncing can be something like their heartbeats will be in sync. Their breathing and the pace at which they breathe will be in sync. Maybe even the pace at which they walk or do other physical activities will be in sync. Sometimes bodies, their physical bodies, will mirror image each other. All of this happens in part because you feel a symbiotic connection with another person, and you're consciously and then subconsciously by default mirror imaging that person, and that can be both positive and negative. We'll get to why it could be negative in a second, but suffice to say, it happens, with a lot. And the longer you're with a person, the more likely it is to happen. Now, the next thing that's interesting about loving relationships is the absence of logic, especially during physical arousal and or feelings of romance, can often cause a person not to think clearly. And so overcommitment and promises unkept often come from the fact of physical attraction. Obviously, we're talking about sexual attraction, but also too, I'm enamored with you. I'm smitten with you, and I'm imagining what spending all my time with you would be like. And so I'm not thinking about the fact that I have to work or pay bills, or that I promised my friends I'd go here or there. And so what happens is, from that state of mind, a person will make promises that they have no chance of keeping in the long run. They might be able to keep them for a few weeks or a few months, but then it burns out, and that's where a lot of fights come from. The idea is you changed. Well, no, the ability to keep the promises that shouldn't have been made because they weren't made from a logical, rational place changed, and now the relationship has to evolve with it. The next thing is that heartbreak, especially for women, physical heartbreak, that is an effect on the physical body, even effect to the heart muscle itself, the internal muscle, and other issues like gastroenterological issues, palpitations, nausea, dizziness, and other things. When a breakup happens out of nowhere, it can have a short to medium term effect. And for some people who are perhaps in the, let's say, soulmate level idea, the concept that there's only one soulmate, and so if they're not with a person, their life is over, it can actually cause physical heartbreak. There's a medical term for it. I do not know off the top of my head. I can't pronounce it correctly anyway, but there have been cases where the physical body changes after a breakup, and especially for women, although there have been very few, although there are documented cases in men, although they're much, much fewer, that problem does become an issue. And the next and the last thing is the inability to function and do daily tasks, whether it's pay bills or go to work or go to school or do the things you promised a friend or family member to do, because you become, some would say obsessed, some would say overly focused, some would say obsessively smitten with a person, is extremely likely in the early stages, and depending on the standard set in the relationship, can actually become almost like an addictive behavior, to the point where guilt and condemnation comes within a person who doesn't follow through on their words, even though it's detrimental to other areas of their life. So this is in all interesting stuff and hopefully useful to you. If you find yourself in the middle of love addiction or challenges in terms of relationship boundaries, I do work with people in those situations all the time. I've worked with over 15,000 people, and so I'm not saying there's nothing I've ever heard, but there's very few things I haven't heard. Hopefully, I can be of assistance to you in this YouTube channel. In the About Me section, there's my website, and also you can check me out on Twitter at PO Perception. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.